This is CBC Vancouver News.
Watching picket lines.
They've been standing around and filming us and, to be honest, making us feel incredibly unsafe.
SFU hires, then drops a private security firm brought in to monitor teaching staff on strike. Plus, calls for more security.
We have to understand how raw and how in pain our community is.
Some members of Metro Vancouver's Jewish community are asking for more protection amid the violence in Israel and Gaza, and tiny homes to help those without homes.
At this stage, we're willing to try anything innovative that will help people stay housed.
A plan to shelter Kelowna's unhoused population. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. I'm Janella Hamilton. Simon Fraser University has ended its contract with a controversial private security firm it hired to monitor teaching staff on strike. The union says their members were photographed and filmed by private investigators while on the picket lines. As Michelle Gassoub reports, they're now demanding answers from the university.
At SFU's Burnaby campus, teaching staff have been on the picket lines for 2 weeks, demanding cost of living adjustments and pensions for their sessional instructors. It was at this picket line that teaching assistants started to feel like something was off. They'd noticed individuals who seemed to be watching them.
These odd characters watching us, following us from campus to campus, taking pictures of us, recording video.
They started asking questions.
Who's paying you to be here?
I don't know.
You don't know.
I'm asked to be here, and that's what I do.
Okay, what's your name?
Lionsgate.
SFU said it hired Lionsgate Risk Management Group to monitor picket line activity. The group is a security risk management firm. It says online its employees have command and control experience for major labor disputes and knowledge in subversive, terrorist, and activist practices. It was previously hired to surveil protesters at Ferry Creek on Vancouver Island and to protect the Trans Mountain Pipeline.
I have no idea what security threat they're getting from us. They've been standing around and filming us and, to be honest, making us feel incredibly unsafe.
SFU said it hired the group because of reports of intimidation and entryways being blocked. But those on strike say it was the firm's presence at their picket lines that made them feel unsafe.
To treat us like criminals, to treat us like we're some kind of threat to this community that we love so much, it's genuinely unbelievable.
SFU said no one was available for an interview. Hours later, it said it had ended the contract with the firm and would be reassessing how it hires for security contracts in the future.
To have literal private investigators following us around and treating us like we're awful when we're just teachers that love what we do.
The union is asking that all documents pertaining to the group's hiring be shared and that all footage of union members on the picket line be destroyed. Negotiations between the two sides remain ongoing. Michelle Gassoub, CBC News, Burnaby.
The Supreme Court of Canada says it will not hear an appeal from the Hells Angels over properties the BC government seized from the motorcycle gang in Kelowna, Nanaimo, and Vancouver. The decision was in response to an appeal by the Hells Angels, and it ends a 16-year legal saga over the clubhouses. The BC government initially moved to seize the first in 2007, citing an act meant to prevent unlawful activity and harmful use of property. The province can now sell the properties under the Civil Forfeiture Act. It's Fire Safety Awareness Week in BC, and officials have launched an education campaign to try and stop a trend of fire-related deaths. Over the past 5 years, the number of fire-related deaths has risen more than 200%, with 86 reported last year. Some of the increase is tied to the pandemic, when more people were at home. Officials say some blazes were started by kitchen fires, smoking, or open flames.
What we find even more concerning is year over year, the statistics aren't changing. And In 2022, only 42% of the time of all reported structure fires was there working smoke alarms. Working smoke alarms save lives. 50% chance greater to save your life if you have a working smoke alarm.
People are being urged to check smoke alarms at least twice a year and to contact your local fire department if you don't have one. 2 Canadian sailors were rescued by the U.S. Coast Guard this week, about 150 kilometers off the coast of Washington state. A helicopter crew from Air Station Astoria were called to help 2 men in a sinking vessel. They say they had a broken propeller, ripped sails, and a dead generator. Part of the rescue was caught on video. Vancouver is one of the most expensive places in Canada to live. Many call it unaffordable and increasingly so. But a new report finds this city is also home to 72 centimillionaires. And as Sohrab Sandhu reports, there is rising concern about the growing income divide.
Luxury brands, extravagant cars, and monster mansions on the ocean. Vancouver has long said to be home of some of the richest on the planet. And now it's official. The city has been ranked 41st in the list of top 50 of the rich, with 72 centimillionaires. Those are the millionaires who possess investable assets of more than 100 million US dollars. The report has been published by Hanley and Partners, an investment migration consultancy firm. The region is also home to 6 billionaires, according to the report. The reaction on the street, a mix of envy and more.
It would not surprise me at all.
Wow, that's a rich city.
Wow. Okay, how about sharing with the rest of us?
The report is projecting a 67% growth in the number of centimillionaires over the next decade. However, experts say the report does not mean people in the city are making more money.
Much of this wealth isn't necessarily made locally, but is being moved into the city and to a great deal moved into residential real estate.
It's clear that it's a highly desirable environment to be in. People do come here, they bring their wealth with them. They come from other regions of the world in order to settle down here, have a lifestyle that they enjoy near the mountains, near the ocean.
Andy Yan says the report only confirms Vancouver's role as a hedge city.
In an era of instability, whether that be political, economic, or even climatic, that Vancouver does have that role of attracting that kind of wealth.
With rising housing prices, he says income inequality remains a major challenge for the city.
It really highlights the ongoing need and public policy gap in terms of progressive taxation on wealth. That I think that this is an issue of income, that is those who are working a job in metropolitan Vancouver, but the massive and sizable disparities when it comes to wealth, whether it be local or global.
Toronto is the only other Canadian city in the list, with 192 centimillionaires and 18 billionaires. New York topped the list with more than 750 centimillionaires and 62 billionaires. Sohrab Sandhu, CBC News, Vancouver.
The city of Kelowna is investing in an innovative solution for its unhoused residents, piloting a program that offers them tiny homes. 120 tiny homes will be put up in the next 3 months. This is part of Kelowna's commitment to house more of their citizens and prevent future encampments.
You know, at this stage, we're willing to try anything innovative that will help people stay housed, because that's the ultimate goal. We don't want people to go in and go out. And so there's an interest, a growing interest internationally at this type of model. And Kelowna said, hey, we want to try it. And so we're willing to partner with them to try it.
The city took inspiration from tiny homes in Washington state. Similar housing has also been set up in Victoria and Duncan, but this is the first time the units will be tested in a colder winter climate. Coming up, a trauma expert and Holocaust survivor will share his views on how the Israel-Gaza region got to this point. That story is next. Thanks for staying with us during our commercial-free live stream. Fast footwork and storytelling is all part of this classical Indian dance style. A Kathak dancer from Newfoundland explains the origins and influences and how she incorporates Western movements.
So Kathak is a dance form that originates from the north part of India, what we now recognize politically, the northern part of that region. But, you know, it has many different influences. So India itself is such a diverse country that you have so many languages, you have thousands of years of history. So Kathak dance is kind of a combination of a number of elements, that there were temple dances that existed in India, in South India, Eastern India, and then Kathak emerged out of the influences of the Mughals who came from what is now Central Asia. And with them, they brought their own style of music, their own clothing style, their religion, and all those influences sort of colored the dance form that we see. So the signature elements of Kathak dance are the spins, or what we call the chakkars, and the very fast percussive footwork that happens, and we wear bells on our feet to bring out that percussive element. For Kathak dance, we have bigger hoop skirts because we're doing spins, and so the costumes are designed to bring out the beauty of that dance form. It's interesting, you know, when we talk about what is Canadian, because I grew up in Canada. I've lived here all my life. I am a Canadian citizen, and I actually grew up and I started learning Indian dance in St. John's, Newfoundland, through the Hindu Temple of St. John's. And we had a dance school that operated for many years, and I actually was a teacher there for a few years. And so I've always thought of our dance, our languages, our culture as being Canadian. A lot of the choreography that I do is a mixture of what people perceive as traditional, but I try to also work with dancers of different styles. So one of the pieces that we're doing is based on Kathak and urban dance, so hip-hop language. So it's showing how we have a rhythmic language, we have an aesthetic that isn't just one thing. It can be as contemporary as anything else.
A former Hamas leader is calling for a day of action tomorrow, sparking concern the violence could spread, including here in Canada. Some members of the Jewish community in the Lower Mainland are calling for increased security. While CBC News has no confirmation there is a threat to people in BC, there will be police presence at synagogues and Jewish schools. In a statement, Public Safety Minister Mike Farnworth says British Columbia will never be a place for hate, violence, or the support of terrorism. We stand in solidarity with the Jewish community, and we are here to support you.
What we're hearing from community members around the threats is that this is another piece of the puzzle. We have to understand how raw and how in pain our community is and how much hurt. We lost an individual that went to school right across from where you're filming right now. I knew him. I sat with his family. We know these people. This is very intimate.
The United Nations World Food Program is warning that supplies are running low in the Gaza Strip after Israel imposed a total blockade on the territory following Saturday's deadly attacks by Hamas militants. The combined death toll of Israelis and Palestinians killed has now topped 2,000. To share his point of view on how the region got to this point in the context of trauma, CBC News spoke to Gabor Mate, a Hungarian-Canadian physician and trauma expert who is also a Holocaust survivor.
The context is the longest ethnic cleansing operation in the 20th and 21st centuries. And the Palestinians have suffered such oppression, such brutality. Tens of thousands have been killed by the Israelis since 1948. Children, hundreds of children have been massacred by bombs within the last 10 years, last 15 years. The Israeli historian, or I should say sociologist Baruch Kimmerling, called Gaza the world's largest concentration camps. And recently, 2,000 Israeli and Jewish academics around the world signed a paper saying that what's going on in the West Bank is apartheid. And none of that is reported in the Western press. So I was there with my own eyes a year ago. There's nothing to justify these atrocities that happened last week. But I'm telling you, if we're going to move forward, if we're going to create peace, if we're going to deal with all this trauma, we have to understand what's going on. And we have to understand that the Palestinian side has suffered such indignity and such oppression that, as the Israeli journalist Gideon Levy wrote in Haaretz, an Israeli newspaper 2 days ago, is that you can't keep 2 million people prisoner and not expect a cruel response. And that's the situation, and that's the context in which I, as a Jewish person, who 3 of my kids spent a year in Israel and studying. I've been there a number of times. I'm heartbroken for everybody, but at the same time, I just wish that people saw the overall reality. This did not have to happen.
We have traumatic events like this, Gabor, that are just so deeply politicized, and as you say, they're so rooted in history. It may feel as though one group is downplaying or diminishing the feelings of others because of their own views. What are your thoughts on that?
Unfortunately, it's true. I heard a wonderful Jewish academic and very religious Jew, Peter Baynard, talking the other day, and he's also heartbroken. And he said that in his community, the way that Jews identify with each other is to be wishing violence and revenge on the Palestinians. And I'm sure the same is true on the other side as well, for many people. It's so difficult for people not just to identify with their own particular ethnic group, but actually feel like human beings, feel as human beings. What if we woke up tomorrow morning, all of us, not as identifying as this, that, or the other, but as human beings? Would we do any of these things to each other? And the historical trauma just keeps magnifying over there, and the outcome, the future is horrendous as far as I'm concerned. And I have to tell you that I'm so upset at Canadian politicians who just reflexively parrot the line that, we have to support Israel's right to defense. Well, sure, every country has the right to defend itself. But does the country have the right to oppress and brutalize? And there's been 250 Palestinian deaths this year in the West Bank. The Western press does not report that.
Yes, when you talk about waking up this morning, I could not imagine waking up to rockets being fired into my neighborhood and getting the news that my children had been killed at a music festival or had been kidnapped and dragged across the border.
It's horrible. One cannot but be both outraged and heartbroken about it. At the same time, do you hear when Palestinian kids are shot and killed in the West Bank? Does the television show those reports? Do we when Israel has bombed Gaza and has killed hundreds of children within 2 weeks. No, I don't mean this time, I mean previously. Do we go into Gaza and hear the individual stories and laments of those individuals? So all I'm asking is for the truth, that we should look at the whole picture.
Here we have a live shot of Canby Street in Vancouver City Hall. Darius Madavi will have our full forecast coming up next.
Farmers often have trouble getting enough help to bring in the harvest, but some farmers on Vancouver Island are having the opposite problem. They can't keep the pickers off their land. The pickers are after hallucinogenic mushrooms. Possession of the so-called magic mushrooms is not against the law, but as Colin Hoth reports, the farmers wish it were.
Thousands of young people have come from across Canada to search the pasture lands of the West Coast for this particular species of mushroom. Among drug users, it's popular now as an organic drug. In the dried state, it's selling for as much as $25 a gram. But BC's farmers say the pickers are spoiling their crops and endangering livestock. On Vancouver Island, Dieter Doberstein is organizing the petition demanding new legislation. He says he's taken to patrolling his farm by night with a shotgun since pickers threatened to burn his building. He's urging neighbors to follow his lead and arrest trespassers.
Leave me alone, man.
You are under arrest.
I'll stay. You can't tie me up, though.
Well, we've been approached by 3 groups, and we've been offered $10,000 by each one just for the picking right.
Why don't you accept it?
Well, I just don't want to be part of the drug scene. We'd like to have a possession of the wet mushroom made to be illegal, then the police can pick those fellows up when they suspect them. They can pick them up any place. Now it's up to me to charge them for trespassing and for mischief. It's up to me to lay the charge. And I don't think that I'm a policeman. It's not my job.
The RCMP say they're swamped with complaints. They are worried about the possibility of violence, but say they just don't have the manpower to control the situation.
We all been practicing for a year on how to run, so, you know, we're all
I figure there should be no big deal because people travel 4,000 miles to come just, you know, pick mushrooms, man. They should be more friendlier because if, you know, nobody's really hurting them because it's just grass you're walking on. You're not, you know.
These 3 pickers ended up with a 5-day jail sentence for trespassing, with a warning from the judge in Courtenay that the next group of offenders could expect even stiffer penalties. Colin Holt, CBC News, on Vancouver Island.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and here's what's in your CBC Vancouver inbox.
The Chutzpah Festival returns November 2nd to 23rd with an exciting lineup of performances including dance, music, theater, and more. For tickets, visit chutzpahfestival.com and join CBC Vancouver's Leanne Young at the Alumni UBC Achievement Awards November 14th. The event honors members of the UBC community through their endeavors and commitment to help shape a better world.
The weather update is brought to you by Direct Buy Furnace. To cool and clean the air in your home, call Direct Buy Furnace. Installing Trane, the most reliable heating and cooling brand.
All right, it is time now for the weather with Darius Madavi. Now, Darius, I know something really cool is happening this weekend, the solar eclipse. Tell me a little bit more about that.
That is right. So we've got a solar eclipse, which means the moon is going to be directly between the Earth and the sun. So we're going to see just a sliver of it here in BC. Now, this is a pretty special solar eclipse because the moon is close to its farthest point from Earth, meaning that it's going to seem smaller in the sky. It won't block out as much of the sun as it would in a total eclipse. So we've got what's called a ring of fire eclipse as the moon moves over the sun, and we make out just the sort of outline of it. So ring of fire going to be visible here in BC. Best place in Canada to see it this weekend, and it's going to be decades before we get to see another one in North America. So we're not along the path of what would be totality, but not a total eclipse, so not its annularity. But we are going to see 75 to 80% of the sun covered by the moon. So if it's not going to be cloudy, get out and see it. But it's going to be a bit cloudy. So this is the 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. is the best time to see it. It peaks around 9:20. Looks like it's going to be cloudy during that time. But if you can find a place to face east or southeast with a good view of the horizon, you might still get a peek at it because some of that cloud might clear out in time. Well, that cloud, though, also brings some showers, so it might be a little bit drizzly when that time comes. So the first showers arrive on Friday. That passes through the west coast and comes to us by the evening. And then again, right through the night into Saturday morning, those showers continue before they clear out. And then by the time they do, Saturday looks like a pretty nice day, a bit of cloud, but for the most part, we're clear of rain until the evening when another system comes through. And then again, Sunday, pretty clear until late in the day. So overall, looks like we're seeing quite a bit of accumulation over that time. So quite a bit of rain building in through parts of the south coast, but not until late on Friday. And then that sort of builds through the rest of the province, but most of it stays confined to the south coast up through the north coast. So for the most part, that's where we're seeing the rain. Not much making its way into the interior this weekend, but the beginning of next week might be a different story. So I'd say enjoy the clear skies while we can, because most of this cloud won't be building in until the afternoon, including here in Vancouver, where we see mostly clear skies until tomorrow evening, and then we see that bit of rain move in for the weekend.
I always learn a little something new from you, Darius. Thank you so much.
What a compliment. Thanks, Janella.
UBC's Latin Dance Club is helping students get their groove on, celebrating Latin American Heritage Month with bachata lessons. Our Michelle Gomez joined in on the fun.
It's Latin American Heritage Month in Canada, a time to honor and celebrate Latin American community and culture. And a big part of this culture is, of course, Latin dance. Today we're here with the UBC Latin Dance Club, and we are learning bachata, a dance that originated in the Dominican Republic.
Bachata is very sensual, I guess. Also very a slow kind of dance.
It's kind of flirty in a sense. The kind of connections you develop, there's a sort of unspoken chat between the lead and the follow. And it's a special moment that can have different tones depending on who you're dancing with.
You get to know how they move, how they think. I really like that. I really love the music, from bachata to salsa to kizomba. All of them have their own thing about it, their own history that goes with it, and that's one of the things that I really like about it. So much is interconnected with the history and the culture.
At the turn, preparation on 4, count 2 half facing. 1, 2, 3 to the couple, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1.
I didn't used to dance back when I was in South America. But once I got here, I kind of started missing my culture, and I was missing that sense of community, and I thought probably here is where I would find people like-minded, because a lot of the culture is imbibed into the music.
Here in Vancouver, you'll find a very big community actually, and it's not just Latin people. It's from every background, any age. If you go to the socials downtown, you'll see literally anyone that you can think of just dancing their hearts out. I would say it's a very big community, but also very welcoming.
Michelle Gomez, CBC News, Vancouver.
That looks like a lot of fun. Well, that is your late news for this Thursday. Thank you so much for watching. For news anytime, visit our website, cbc.ca/BC. Your next local news is on the early edition on CBC Radio 1. That starts tomorrow morning at 5:30. Have a great night.